Hare Krishna, dear devotees, those who are online, those who are on Zoom, thank you for joining. Today's class, we are going to cover Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, renunciation. So the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation, that's the name of the chapter we're going to cover. We are going to cover a few slokas there, hitting on the topic of what's the confidential message, what is more confidential and what is most confidential. Lord Krishna is saying, and if time permits, we'll go through briefly Vrindavan Das Thakur's biography. So let me take care of some logistics before we start the session. So before we start the session, I'd like to do Mangalacharan prayers to invoke auspicious blessings from our previous acharyas and Lord Krishna and his dear devotee Srimati Radharani, so that this session goes successful. Om Ajnana Timiranधस्य Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vande Aham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Shahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nitai namene che namer hate Shraddha mule nam dite chere. Nitai namene che namer hate Shraddha mule nam dite chere. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Jai Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki. So, what is happening in chapter 18, Srimad Bhagavad Gita? So, just to give you a brief background on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it was spoken by Lord Sri Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, before the battle is to start. Now, then Arjuna, when looks at the opposite side and sees all the relatives standing there, against whom he has to fight a do or die kind of battle, then he gets nervous. He makes some valid excuses, all from scriptures, and he asks Lord Krishna that, what should I do? You guide me. He accepts Lord Krishna as the spiritual master, and he becomes his disciple. Although their relationship in that contemporary time was, they were relatives, of course, they were cousins, but they were also friends, very dear friends. So then Lord Krishna takes the responsibility. He is, by the way, as super soul, is the Chaitya Guru. He is the spiritual master in everyone's heart. He is constantly speaking to us. Whenever we want to make a decision, he is speaking to us. But we, because of our coverings of the material body and material mind and intelligence, we cannot listen. And therefore, in this battlefield, he accepts the role as a spiritual master, pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means visible. Okay, as a visible spiritual master, and resolves Arjuna's doubts. Arjuna asks questions after questions. So that's how we have so many chapters. And finally, in this 18th chapter, Arjuna asks the final question. A question whose answer will help Arjuna decide what he was supposed to do in the first chapter, whether he should leave the battlefield and become a sannyasi, or he should execute the battlefield as per Krishna's instructions, as if he's offering the results of the battlefield to Lord Krishna. That is Tyaga. That's the final question Arjuna has after listening to various paths to reach the Supreme. I mean, if you read all the 17 chapters, you will know Lord Krishna goes through almost every path. Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, the yoga by which we perceive Paramatma in our heart, right? And of course, to top it all, is Bhakti Yoga. In fact, he says that in all other yoga, you need Bhakti. But Bhakti Yoga, you don't need all other yoga. You can simply do Bhakti, Because bhakti means the most important aspect of bhakti is when you are dependent on everything on Lord Krishna. Of course, Lord Krishna now. At that time, Arjuna was very fortunate. And to have Lord Krishna, who is the guru in everyone's heart. But we are also fortunate in the sense that the same message that Lord Krishna gave to Arjuna in the battlefield comes down untarnished as it is, as Srila Prabhupada said. That's why the name of this Bhagavad Gita is Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Means the essence of that message is not disturbed. And they are coming. It's not just books, that is the Shastra, it's also the sadhus and gurus. Because what was the world as it existed 5,000 years back, or the world as it existed 500 years back, is not the same what it is today. So the reason why I said 500 is because 500 years back, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. And he showed how to really live Bhagavad Gita as a devotee. But then again, world changed. So 50 years back, Srila Prabhupada came. He went to West and he spread this message throughout the world. He opened many temples. The main purpose was to send this Krishna Upadesh. Jare dekho tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. That was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Whomever you see, this gives this Lord Krishna's message. And if you do that, then you become Guru. Simple. Spiritual master. But people will have questions. When you give this message, they will find this message alien because the world is changing. They had taken so many births. They have so much of impressions in their consciousness from many, many millions of previous births. So this message would sound very alien to them. So you need a guru who can interpret this message in the contemporary time. So Srila Prabhupada also left many of his dear disciples who are with us to guide us in, because 50 years back also, now if you look at, yes, a lot of things are same, but again, a lot of things have changed, right? So we need spiritual master today. But the main thing is, as it is, the spiritual masters are giving the essence of what Krishna was trying to speak. Lord Krishna was trying to speak to Arjuna, is being spoken by Mahaprabhu 500 years back, spoken by Srila Prabhupada 50 years back, and now is being spoken by his Srila Prabhupada's dear disciples, who are spiritual masters to many of us. Exactly same message. They depend on Krishna. Don't stop your work. And there is one verse we'll read where Lord Krishna is saying that if you depend on me, if you are conscious of me, then you will overcome all the obstacles of your life. That is what is the message. So, so that's the thing, basically. So that is the main context of this chapter, whether I should do sannyas or whether I should do tyaga. Now, sannyas does not involve any material activities, but tyaga involves activities. Because if you want to offer the result, then you have to act, because without action, there is no result, right? So that is why Lord Krishna here in this, I'm not going to go verse by verse, but I will give a broad stroke of why Lord Krishna is covering certain things in this. You might have seen in this chapter, in the beginning, he is covering about action. Why is it important? Because he is giving preference to tyaga. Lord Krishna is saying in the beginning that tyaga is better than sannyas. Tyaga is better than sannyas. Why? Because tyaga helps you in engaging in 3 different types of activities. sacrifice, charity, and penance. Because sacrifice, charity, and penance involve activities. Therefore, and why they're important? Because they purify even the great souls. In sannyas, you are not doing any activity. So you may not be doing any more harmful activities, or means the harmful to the soul, right? But you may still have the past reactions that may surface up in your consciousness and may distract you from the path. Tyaga is better because the past consciousness, what you have, through sacrifice, charity, and penance, you can purify them. And that is why Lord Krishna is saying, this is better. Tyaga is better than sannyas. But the question comes, that means I have to involve in activity. Now, in this real world, there is nothing like, there are activities like spiritual activity, like you do deity worship, you make garlands, you cook for deities, right? You go and distribute books. But with that, you can survive, maybe, right? But you will become isolated, because we are not, Krishna consciousness is not creating a secluded society. We want to be, because otherwise, how will we fulfill Mahaprabhu's mission with Chare Dekho, Tare Kaho Krishna Upadesh? Whomever you see, you give Krishna's message. If we don't become part of the society, that means we have to engage in activity which is termed material. And then the results we offer to Lord Krishna. So moment we do that, then the big question comes, okay, what is activity? It has 5 factors, right? There's a super soul, there is endeavor, there's the performer, right? And then what motivates one to act? And then what are the constituents of activity? So Lord Krishna goes through all that here, and that's the reason why he goes through activity, because he thinks Tyaga is better, which involves activity. And that is why he sort of gives, he analyzes that aspect of activity. That's the reason he gives all these details about activity. And then he says, all these constituents of activity, then explains further that how in different modes people perform this, right? So here is saying, here he is talking about, the 5 causes of activities. It is giving details. And then he is also talking about what motivates one to act, right? Knowledge, object of knowledge, and the knower, right? You need all these things to get motivated, right? Only when you know that laddu is sweet, right? Laddu is the object of knowledge. You have the knowledge that it is sweet, and there is someone, knower, then you have a motivation to act, that you go and, eat the laddu, right? And how will you do that? The senses, right? You will get nice smell, right? Then you will use your active senses, right? To go there, pick up, you have to do that work. And the doer, the performer, they have to involve. So you have to get involved in that activity. So he's analyzing what is activity. And further, he also delineates that this knowledge, action, and performer of action, right? He's talking about these constituents of this action. He's taking the summary of whatever is said, and then these 3 things: the knowledge, which drives one to act, the action itself, and the performer of action. How is it different in different modes? Why is it important? It is important because although we may be in mode of goodness, we can clearly see from the morning to evening, depending on the environment, because at work we deal with all kinds of people. The environment we go through, our modes change. They keep changing. That is why I can tell from my experience that in the morning, I like to have food which is not very spicy. But in the evening, I like to have food which is very spicy. And that from that, I realized that I'm actually in the mode of passion. Because of the hard work, because of the interaction, passionate interaction with the people throughout the day, I am now in that mode. I've gone into the mode of passion. I can tell from my experience. So that is why it is not that a person may be predominantly born into a particular mode, but throughout the day, the modes keep changing as we experience, put ourselves into different situation, our modes change. For some people, it may be more, for some people, it may be less, because people who are more advanced, they have developed that kind of detachment from their mind, their intelligence, their material mind, material intelligence, and material body. They may be less so than others. So it's a question of relative degree. But people will be in different modes throughout the day. And that's why Lord Krishna is delineating all of those things. Although you may be doing tyaga, you may have to go through these different modes in the different times of the day. And so we should know that at what mode we are. That is why Lord Krishna is determined, talking about this knowledge, action, and performance action in different modes. Okay. And then I will talk about one more thing and see if anyone has any question. Then he does talk about the different kinds of understanding and determination. Because at the end of the day, there are two things, right? Our intelligence, which drives us to action, and then how determined we are to do that action. These are the two things. We will not stay steady in an action if we are not determined. Right? And understanding actually is also the intelligence which tells us that do X, but don't do Y. That is the intelligence. It is easier often to decide between a spiritual and material, do X and Y, is one is spiritual, another is material, not that hard, right? If we have determination, of course, to follow through. Otherwise, determining just based on intelligence between X, which is spiritual, and Y, which is material, is not very hard. But sometimes X and Y both could be spiritual. Then it becomes a little bit hard. Then we have to use our reasoning of which is, all kinds of reasoning may come into play. Like, is this instruction given to me by spiritual master, a direct instruction? Is this a spiritual activity going to do greater good, more good to more number of people versus the spiritual activity Y? So there are a lot of things that comes, and that's a different topic altogether. But the point I was making is we use our understanding to decide what we should do, and then we need to have determination. So, and then Lord Krishna talks about this determination also and understanding also in different modes, because this can vary. And now I am going to stop and see if anyone has any question until now. Thank you, Kautukarna Prabhu, for joining. And also check online if people have any questions there online. Let me see quickly.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Mataji?
Thank you. Yes, thank you for a nice class and explanation. I have a question about, you mentioned about the thing that we are always like at work or with family members during the day to night, and everybody's mode is different, and we are balancing. We have to balance and stay with the family members, and they may not be, devotee or anything like that, but we still have to balance it. How do we keep it like strong? You said our determination has to be strong, which is very nice point, but it's knowingly we know, but it's hard to keep it in a good mode. And so that my question is that if you can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so I will give you some examples from my personal life. I actually I had attractions towards Lord Vishnu for some reason or the other from birth, but I did not come from a Vaishnava family. My parents and most of my relatives, they are all Shakta. Shakta means they worship goddess, basically goddess Durga, goddess Kali. Now, once in a while, I have session, like I just read through Bhagavad Gita with my parents, and when they say something like these things are told by Ram Krishna Paramahansa, who was a great devotee of goddess Kali, then I don't argue with them. I just tell them, yes, in various spiritual paths, similar things have been told, but we have to understand, what is our ultimate good, right? And then I carry on. I carry on with the discussion. So I'm not saying that I have reached that level yet. I sometimes do get angry, sometimes do get frustrated with these people, but I always console myself by saying that even though that person is following that path, I have to accept one thing, that in his heart is also Paramatma there, Lord Krishna there as Paramatma. In my heart also Lord Krishna is there as Paramatma. Based on the journey, they are following through, they are taking actions, they are saying something. I should not be angry at them. I should not get frustrated at them. That's how I console myself. That does not mean we should. So that is what Mahaprabhu said. Jare dekho, tare kaho Krishna upadesh. But he never said that you have to convince everyone with Krishna consciousness. He didn't say that. Mahaprabhu didn't say that, because Mahaprabhu knew that not many people will be convinced. But at least we should try, because we don't know, because there may be innocent people out there who just doesn't know that they are even, they are not this body. They don't even know that fact. So you have to tell people, and if someone accepts that, great. And if someone, just we move on. That's it. That's how. I mean, with relatives, I understand, Mataji. I mean, with relatives, it is very difficult. So we have to, it's a test of our tolerance. I mean, I don't know what to say. If anyone else wants to add to something, they are open to add, but you just tolerate. There is, I don't see any other way out, because there may be programs. If you stop going there, the problem, what will happen if you stop going to those occasions, then that how happy you are following this path, they will miss that part. So you just follow your path, you show that you are happy, not artificially, naturally you are happy. That's it. And they will then ask, like, how come you are happy? You don't, you don't eat meat, you don't do all these things which gives us this temporary happiness, yet you are happy. How come? Right?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Can I ask just one second question came with your answer? That
sure,
you,
please.
So, when we travel, or relatives or extended relatives, when we stay, whatever they are doing, going out, eating meat or whatever, intoxication, whatever. But we, I've experienced that like you say, tolerating is the best thing, because even in Shastras is tolerating, you have to tolerate. So
Yeah.
that I think is the best thing, to be balanced and to have a relationship and doing our sadhana, rather than, making faces or something we don't like or something,
Yeah.
because they are
We
not
don't want
going
to
to
do
change.
that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for the tolerating idea. Is a good
Yeah.
thing. Thank you.
Yeah, that is why Lord Krishna talks about tolerance in the second chapter itself, Arjuna to Arjuna. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think we'll move on. Okay, I think, let me see. There may be some online question. Okay. Let me see in Facebook. Okay. I think there are no questions. Okay. So let me share again. Okay. So he talks about understanding and determination in different modes. After that, he says then, once he talks about this, he is then talking about, because we have to understand that this material world that we perceive with our five senses, right, is not the only world, right? There are other worlds which exist in subtle realms. We call often higher planetary systems, right? Now, if let's say there's someone from moon, okay, they come today to Earth, they may see a lot of human beings, they may see different kinds of animals, but they may not see ghosts, just like we don't see ghosts. Does that mean ghosts don't exist? Right? Similarly, we may go to moon, we may not see anyone there, right? But does that mean they don't exist there? Maybe they exist in subtle dimensions in moon, right? So there are demigods, there are other beings who exist in higher planetary systems. Lord Krishna is saying they are also affected by these modes bound of material nature. And after saying that, then he comes back again to our earthly realm. Right? So in earthly realm, we have Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Right? And they exhibit certain qualities. And then Brahmanas by nature are in the mode of goodness, Kshatriyas in the mode of passion. In the earlier ancient world, Puranas, those Kshatriyas used to be probably in the mode of goodness and passion, because they were very saintly kings. Vaishyas are mostly in the mode of passion and sort of ignorance, and Sudras are mostly in the mode of ignorance. Right? So, but while in these different modes, they exhibit certain qualities. And because these modes are not set in stone, so that is why you will see sometimes Brahmanas do exhibit other qualities also, because they may be sometimes in other modes. They can get influenced because they have that pride in them. Brahmanas typically have that pride in them, that they are the topmost in this ladder. So they may, because of the pride, they may sometimes exhibit qualities of passion or maybe even ignorance. Okay, they can get influenced by those, because pride actually comes from a false ego. False ego separates us from our real self. So more and more we come closer to ourself, more and more we transcend these modes from ignorance to passion to goodness, and then to pure goodness, which is also the transcendental, right? So pride actually is like a curtain, basically. It's false ego is like a curtain, and pride is its symptom, basically. It sort of cuts us from our real self. Now, Lord Krishna talks about all these different varnas, right? The occupations, classes of occupations, right? And then he talks about a important thing. And this is where we will start our discussion, 7:35. I hope I will be able to complete this in time. So, what is Lord Krishna saying here? By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Because Arjuna was trying to leave the work of Kshatriya and wanted to become sannyas. Right? By the way, the other varnas also, they can become sannyas, but mostly in olden days, sannyas means they were brahmanas, mostly. But there were also very saintly kings, they took sannyas. They wanted to reach the supreme. They wanted to engage in devotional service, so they took sannyas also. But mostly they were brahmanas. So he was trying to move away from Kshatriya to Brahmana. And that is why Lord Krishna is stressing here that you don't have to do that. You can reach the supreme even while you are a Kshatriya. Okay? So that is why Lord Krishna is saying, by following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, I will try to, from this point onwards, I will try to read the verses also. Swese karmani abhirata samsiddhim labate nara swakarma nirata siddhim yatha vindati tatsrinu. Okay, so by following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. Okay. Yatah pravirtir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmanatam abhyacha siddhim vindati manava. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading. So two important things. A person can be source of something, but that person may not be there, what that person created. That is the special thing about Lord Krishna. He is not only the source, but he's all pervading. He's also there. If you take an analogy, let's say president of a nation, okay, he's probably source of all kinds of laws and the progress or regress, whatever is happening in the country. But he's really, you can conceptually say he's all pervading through the laws, but he's not present personally everywhere. But here, Lord Krishna is present personally everywhere as Paramatma, in every atom. Okay. So his Lord is saying, by the worship of that Lord, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. Own work, whatever work you're doing work as a Kshatriya or Brahmana or Vaishya or Sudra, you can attain perfection. Okay, by worshipping the Lord. Not simply doing work, also by worshipping him. Right? So the key sentence is made it very simple. Srila Prabhupada is saying everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is recommended in this verse. Remember, wherever you are going to do work, if you are going with a motive that I'm going to do work so that I can earn money to maintain my family, and so that along with my family, I can serve the Lord peacefully. If that's your motive, then that is a devotional service. Because that is exactly Krishna was asking Arjun to do. He was not asking Arjun to leave everything and then open a temple and do, arti and make garland. No. He was telling Arjun, you are Kshatriya, you work. Under my instruction, you work. You go fight the battle under my instruction. And imagine that when you do the work as per my instruction, you are offering the results to me. That is your devotional service to me. Right? Okay. Sreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat swa anushtitat swabhava niyatam karma kuruvan napnoti kilvisham. Now Lord Krishna is saying why one should stick to his own work, the work as per born of his nature. Why? It is better to engage in one's own occupation even though one may perform it imperfectly than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. If your nature is to be a Brahmana and you are trying to become, not trying, let's say you are become a Kshatriya and you did that work even better than what you were doing as a Brahmana, Lord Krishna does not appreciate it. He does not appreciate. That is what this verse says. Even if you do it better than what you are doing as a Brahmana, because your nature is Brahmana, you must, even though you are not doing okay as Brahmana, you still do work as Brahmana. Even though you may change your occupation and become a Kshatriya, although that is not your nature, and you do a better job there, Lord Krishna does not accept it because that is not your nature. When we rebel, when we take an occupation which is not as per our nature, we have to understand what we are doing there is we are actually disobeying Lord Krishna. Because Maya Dhakshena Prakriti Suyate Characharam. Everything that is happening, even the body you got, may have been given by nature, but it is as per the supervision of Lord Krishna. You deserve that body. That's why you got that body. Now you think something is better because now the trend is, I'm just taking a very material example, data science. So because I will become data scientist, although my nature is not that. Right? So you don't follow the trend. Whatever is attractive, whatever gets, more value, don't focus on the externalities of the society. Rather focus on what is your nature. And you can always take the help of devotees, spiritual masters. Sometimes they can help you understand your nature because sometimes people are confused. What is really my nature? Although it is not that difficult, basically. Where you feel peaceful, that is your nature. And that is the kind of work one should do, even though you are not able to do it perfectly. Okay. Duties prescribed according to one's nature was never affected by sinful reaction. Like, for example, a lion, a tiger, they are violent. They kill animals and they eat them. But that does not affect them by sinful reactions because that they are doing activity as per their nature. If a Kshatriya goes and for protecting the religious principles, he goes, fights battle and kills someone, evil, maybe a thief or rogue, that does not, in fact, what happens, the Kshatriya does not get sinful reaction and the thief and rogue, their sinful reaction goes away. So there is two benefit. There's two benefit. Both the thief and rogues gets benefit and the Kshatriya also gets benefit. So their violence is actually helping both. So that is what Lord Krishna said. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. But same thing if Brahmana goes and fights and tries to, kill the thieves and rogues. Oh no. Thieves and rogues will not get benefited even if they get killed. And the Brahmana is also not going to get benefited. because that's not his job. As per his nature, he is supposed to go and complain to the king that in your kingdom, these so many thieves and rogues are coming, go and take care. That is what he is supposed to do, a Brahman. Okay. So here, actually, so Srila Prabhupada's conclusions are often very straightforward. So we should definitely read them. The conclusion is that everyone should be engaged according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired. One should not feel sorry about that. And he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. That should be the motive in the mind when you are doing your work. You will not incur any sinful reaction. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api na tyajet sarvarambha hi doshena dhumena ivavrata. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. Right? So every work, fire is covered by smoke. What it means is every activity, just like fire is covered by smoke, every activity is covered by some fault. That's the analogy Lord Krishna is giving. Right? But still, simply because fire is covered by smoke, the igniting power of fire is still there to destroy the smoke. Similarly, your work, if you do with the right motive of satisfying the Supreme, then it has got that igniting power to destroy all your reactions. Okay. So even though you may see that your work has full of fault, you should still, do the work which is based on your nature. Born of his nature means based on your nature. So some examples. So let's read this paragraph. I think is a good one I found. Prabhupada wrote. In conditioned life, all his purports are excellent, but this one specifically, he is covering the various, occupations. In conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. Even if one is a Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Right? So there is this fault even for Brahman. Right? But a Kshatriya cannot perform that sacrifice because that is meant for Brahmana. That is Brahmana's job. So Brahmana is engaged in something which is faulty. Similarly, a Kshatriya, however pious he may be, has to fight enemies. Who else is going to do that? That is Kshatriya's job as per his occupation. He has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business. Right? If he goes on advertising that he's making very good profit, then every time a customer comes, he will say, oh, you are making good profit. Why don't you give me a good deal? Otherwise, I will go to someone else. Right? So he has to hide his profit. Or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Of course, Srila Prabhupada is not saying that they should always go to black market, but sometimes they may have to. Okay. So one cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a Sudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, even though it should not be done. Sometimes, because this is very relevant, because 99% of the occupations in Kali Yuga are the Sudra occupations. And there you have a master who has his own agenda, right? May not be good one. So he may ask you to sometimes to do something, but you have to always remember that he is your master. And because you are a Sudra, you are working there, right? It doesn't matter whether you are a CFO or whatever, you are still a worker. If he asks you to do something, even though it is not right, you have to do it, right? That is the fault of being a Sudra. So every one of these occupations has some fault. right? So now Srila Prabhupada is saying, despite this flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of their own nature. Now, of course, if you are by nature you are a Brahmana and you try to become a Sudra, you will have problem. Most of the times you will not be able to keep the job, or even if you keep it, you won't make much progress. Because no boss likes a subordinate who always, questions his decisions, right? Doesn't want to do what the boss has asked to do because of some, his idealistic thinking of what is right, what is wrong, all that, right? So if you are a Brahmana, then stick to Brahmana profession. By nature, if you are a Brahmana, then stick to Brahmana profession, right? And then if you become a Sudra, then you will have a problem, right? You won't be able to do it properly. Okay. Okay. So there are some nice examples given here. Like for example, here, similarly, one should not give up his natural occupation because there are some disturbing elements, right? Like for example, in case of Arjun, this is what was happening. He was trying to give his natural occupation of Kshatriya because he was finding this whole situation very disturbing. Right? So he did not want to fight the battle. He did not want to fight his guru. Right? Guru means his martial guru, who taught him the military. Right? The Dronacharya, his grandfather Bhishma, right? They were almost like worshipable for him, and so he did not want to fight them in a do or die battle. Right? Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. That is the perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified, not removed, but purified. Means the reactions are gone. When the results of the work are purified when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, that is self-realization. But one thing I must warn here is simply because devotional service has that capacity to purify the results of the work, it is still, this process is not like a vending machine that if you give $2, then you will get merchandise worth $2. No. Remember, behind everything there is consciousness. There's consciousness of demigods, consciousness of Krishna. So they can see that you are cheating. So you're a businessman, you think, oh, I am allowed to lie, and also you lie all the time. Lord Krishna will know that you are cheating. Okay? That's not acceptable. In unusual circumstances, that's allowed. But you do it all the time, you will be punished. You will incur sinful reaction. Or if you are a Kshatriya, you kill people all the time, like if you read in Bhagavatam, King Vena. No, he had to incur sinful reactions. He was very cruel. Right? He used to kill everyone, and he would never allow Brahmanas to do their sacrifices. Right? So he had incurred very lot of sinful reactions, and then Brahmanas, by their high-sounding mantras, simply terminated his life. Right? Because he was not taking care of people. Right? And he was stopping Brahmanas to do activities which are good for larger good of the people. Because it will please the Supreme. When the Supreme is pleased, then naturally, Supreme gives all the necessities, natural resources, rain and everything, so that, the society is happy. Right? So, we should not, simply because devotional service has this power, that does not mean, we are allowed to do all kinds of, engage in those faults of the occupation all the time. No, that's not what it means. It says that if you have to engage in those faults for unusual circumstances, like in case of Arjun, what was happening, right? Then you will be relieved of your sinful reactions. Ashakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vigata spriya nashkarmya siddhim paramam sanyasena gacchati. One who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyments can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. So one have to be self-controlled and unattached. And we have to disregard material enjoyments. That does not mean you stop eating or stop sleeping. No. You don't do those things with the intention of enjoying yourself. Rather, offer it to Lord Krishna and then accept it as his mercy. Okay? That is the real renunciation. That way you will be peaceful and you will not feel like engaging in unnecessary enjoyment. And when you do that, then you reach the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. So all the past reactions are then gone. Now Lord Krishna will say step by step what happens. Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tathapnoti nibodhame samasenaiva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya yapara. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize. Now Lord Krishna is talking about the confidential aspect, which is Brahman, or you can also say the Sat. If you take Sat, Chit, Ananda, three aspects of Lord Krishna, the Sat aspect is the confidential aspect. And that is what Lord Krishna will now say. Once a person is relieved of his sinful reactions by following his occupational duty and offering the results to Lord Krishna, do what is called Tyaga, then they purify the soul, and then how they can reach Brahman. So this is the confidential message he will start talking about. Buddhya vishuddhaya yukto dhrityatmanam niyamacha shabdadin vishayam styaktva ragadveshau vyudasya cha vivikta shevi lagva ashi yata vakaya manasha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam shamupashrita ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimuchya nirmama shanto brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So to reach Brahman, you have to do a lot of things. First, you have to purify yourself, being purified, not first, being purified. Okay, so he is already purified. Okay, and controlling the mind with determination. Being, why is this being? Because that has already been done, as talked about in the previous verse. Right? You need intelligence and you need control of mind with determination to go through those activities of daily life and yet offer everything to Krishna. Because remember, after all, in this material world, I am not working to give it to Krishna. I am working to enjoy myself. So one has to be purified. His intelligence has to be purified. And on top of that, simply because something is pure, that doesn't mean it will become impure again. It can become impure. So you have to control your mind also, so that you don't follow those paths or those, don't associate with those things which can, make your intelligence impure again or consciousness impure again. Right? So you have to control the mind. So first you have to purify yourself by intelligence, and then you have to also control the mind with determination. Giving up the objects of sense gratification. Being freed from attachment and hatred. So that means you have to be freed from both. You cannot hate anything, or you cannot get like anything or get attached to anything. You have to be freed from both. You have to be sort of in an ambivalent mode. Then one who lives in a secluded place, right? Who eats little. Don't eat, because if you eat too much, then you will sleep. Right? Who controls his body. Right? One has to control his body. Because even though you remain in a secluded place, your past impressions are there in your consciousness. And that can impel you to do something. So even though you go in a secluded place, that may not help if you don't control your body. So you have to still control your body. You have to also control your mind. And you have to control the power of speech. Right? Because if you don't control the power of speech, you will again get engaged in unnecessary topics. What in Chaitanya Charitamrita written as Grammo Katha, the talk of the village. Right? The village talk. The village, I don't know, in village, if you go village, you will see everyone knows about everyone else. Everything they know. How they know? Because of this village talk that goes on. In village people, in cities, you will see that people live in their own world and own little apartment. They don't even know like what is the next person in next door apartment doing. But in village, the situation is different. Like people know each other very well, right? So how? Because of that Grammo Katha. So you will engage in the speech, right? So speech can often be distracting, and it can lead to unnecessary information. You tell someone something and then they tell you, and it goes into your consciousness and it keeps remaining in your consciousness, keeps circling, right? Disturbs you. Who is always in trance, who is detached, right? Trance means his consciousness has transcended the material modes, right? Who is detached, free from false ego. What is false ego? False ego is when an ego thinks that I am this body. They don't have recognition of that there exists something called soul. Right? So free from false ego means he knows he's actually the soul, not the body. False strength, false pride, right? Lust, anger, acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. So you need to do so many things. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. Lord Krishna is saying such a person who can do all these things, has all these qualities, right? He can definitely reach the position of self-realization. Right? Let's read a little bit this purport. This is a good purport. When one is purified by intelligence, he keeps himself in the mode of goodness. Thus, one becomes the controller of the mind and is always in trance. He is not attached to the object of sense gratification because he is in trance, right? He is transcended. Objects of sense gratification are actually combination of this material mode. So because he has transcended the material mode, so he is not attached anymore. He is free from attachment and hatred in his activities. Such a detached person naturally prefers to live in a secluded place. He does not eat more than what he requires, and he controls the activities of his body and mind. He has no false ego because he does not accept the body as himself. Nor has he a desire to make the body fat and strong by accepting so many material things. Because he has no bodily concept of life, he is not falsely proud. He is satisfied with everything that is offered to him by the grace of the Lord and is never angry in the absence of sense gratification. Nor does he endeavor to acquire sense objects. Thus, when he is completely free from false ego, he becomes non-attached to all material things. And that is the stage of self-realization of Brahman. That stage is also called, in this verse, Brahma Bhuta stage. So he moves from Jiva Bhuta to Brahma Bhuta, right? Stage. Brahma Bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So in this stage, when he realizes the Supreme Brahman, right? He realizes Brahman, he realizes Supreme Brahman, the source of Brahman, and then he becomes joyful. Why he becomes joyful? Because he understands this that is the source of all the joy. Right? In Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra, it is given, right? Janmadi yasya ataha. Janma adi yasya, everything, birth, death, everything is coming from this Brahma. Right? And when he reaches that source, he becomes joyful. Because all other sources of joy in this material world are temporary. And sometimes we even take misery also as joy. Right? Like, for example, if you run very hard, after that you get some relief. Right? We think that relief as joy. But we don't understand that to get that is not actually joy. That is the relief from running hard, which you are doing for last 1 hour. Right? So sometimes some people in material will also take the relief from misery as joy. But this is the source of real joy. Okay? Real joy of Brahman. And what happens, he then becomes equally disposed toward every living entity. When you say equally disposed, what it means is that he understands that every living entity out there is actually working as per their condition. He can see that very clearly. Whatever the modes they are conditioned by, they are working as per that. So there is no reason to become enemy or envious of any living entity. They are just working as per their modes of nature. So no need. So they become equally disposed, right, to all living entities. And that state, then they attain Mad Bhakti Labhate Param. And in that state, they attain devotional service to me. That is what Lord Krishna says in 11th chapter also. He's saying to Arjun in 11th chapter that you have to know that I am the source of everything, and you have to be kind to all living entities. Both are required. Then you get pure devotional service to me. You cannot get pure devotional service, just if you think about, Krishna is supreme. That is not enough. You have to be kind to all living entities. Why? Because Krishna is present in every living entity. The living and different living entities are engaged in either good or abominable work because of their modes of nature. Super soul is speaking to them all the time that what they should do, what is the right thing for them to do. I mean, if that is conscious that there is a super soul, but they cannot listen. So what can super soul do? Super soul then lets them do whatever they want to do. So they understand that Brahma Bhuta who realize, they understand that. And then they are very peaceful. They sometimes go and tell them that you should not do like this, you should do like this. But if they don't listen, they try to convince them a little bit. If not, then that's fine. Hare Krishna. And they go their path, you go your path. Don't be disturbed. So that is a Brahma Bhuta stage. Let me quickly see if there is any questions anywhere. Okay, there are no questions, so I will just continue. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschaśmi tattvata tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Okay. So here, Lord Krishna is sort of going from confidential to most confidential. He's describing that path, right? But he will come back again to more confidential. And I will tell you where is it more confidential. So far, reaching the Brahman stage is confidential. Okay. But Lord Krishna is saying, because in Brahman stage, when you are equally disposed to all living entities, you get pure devotional service. So that's why Lord Krishna is saying, when someone is in that consciousness, then they can understand Lord Krishna, because there is no other way. You cannot use Gyan Yoga, you cannot use Karma Yoga, you cannot use Ashtanga Yoga, you cannot use Sankhya Yoga. You cannot understand Lord Krishna by those. Only by devotional service, you can do that. Bhakti, right? Seva bhav bhakti, right? Now, and then one can enter into the kingdom of God. Lord Krishna's one, Vaikuntha. Sarva karmani api shada kurvano mat vyapashraya mat prasadat avapnoti shashvatam padamabhayam. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Lord Krishna is now making clear devotional service does not mean just doing deity worship, making garlands. No, there is devotional. Even if you engaged in your day-to-day activities also, if you do with a motive of serving Lord Krishna, then that is also devotional service. That is why Lord Krishna is saying, though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection, under Lord Krishna's shelter. And in next verse, he will mention Lord Krishna, how you can remain in Lord Krishna's shelter. But if you do that, if you engage in all kinds of activities under Lord Krishna's shelter, then you reach that eternal and imperishable abode. That is the kingdom of God, which Lord Krishna talked about in previous verse. By his mercy. Remember, again, many things. It's not that simply because you do this, we should never think that devotional service are like activities of this material world. It's not think. It's like a vending machine. Like I do X, Y, Z, and then I get N. No. There is this mercy. You do X, Y, Z, but still you need Lord Krishna's mercy to get N. Right? Chetasa sarva karmani mai shanyasya matpara buddhi yogam upasritya matchitta shatatam bhava. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So always remain conscious, okay, and depend on Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna, you may say, oh, you are like a parasite, you are always dependent. No, Lord Krishna will not feel that way. Lord Krishna is not saying that stop all your work. Remember this. You keep engaging in an activity, but when in doubt, you can depend upon him. Okay. And sometimes you may have a question, oh, I'm thinking I should do this, but then my inner conscience says I should do that. You can always go to your spiritual master or devotees and think, with confidence. Don't disclose it, your personal problems to everyone simply because, there's a devotional, there's ISB and all. Don't start talking to everyone. No, you should have some confidential devotee with you, which you have build a rapport that he can keep things in confidence. Only reveal your mind to that devotee, a senior devotee or someone. And then, because they have that experience in that path, they can share some of their experiences and you can benefit from them, right? So here Lord Krishna is saying, depend upon. When he says depend upon me, Lord Krishna is incomplete without his devotees. So me all includes spiritual master, includes senior devotees, right? Because Lord Krishna is saying in one of the previous verses in Bhagavad Gita that those devotees, they live in me, right? Those pure devotees, they live in me. I'm forgetting the verse, but there is a verse in which Lord Krishna is saying that I am in them and they are in me. So me includes those pure devotees also. So you can take guidance, because Lord Krishna, although as Paramatma is trying to guide you, but you will not be able to perceive because of false ego and all. So that is why you can depend. When you say depend upon me, you can always take shelter and guidance from senior devotees and spiritual master. Matchitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi atha chet tvam ahankaran na srushyashi vinamshati. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. Not just spiritual life, even your conditioned life, your material life. So it is not that, you take guidance from Krishna only for your spiritual matters. No, you can take guidance from Krishna on your material matters also, right? Like Arjuna's guidance was a material matter, whether he should not fight or whether he should fight. He was not asking a question on spiritual matter. His question was of material matter, right? And he was taking guidance from Lord Krishna. So you can take guidance from Lord Krishna on your material matters. Of course, you don't want to bother Krishna with saying whether I should invest in X or invest in Y, right? But there may be difficult situations in your life, even in your material life, where you might like to have some guidance from Lord Krishna, right? Like, for example, whether I should, spend my time for reading the scriptures, or I should spend my time watching some movie, right? If you have not read scripture throughout the day, what should I do? So Lord Krishna can sometimes answer you those questions. He can help you, can guide you. And if you read scriptures, you will see, you will slowly, you lose interest in watching that movie. You have to take the first step. You have to hold the book in your hand and start flipping through the pages. You will see that you will lose interest, because these books, these scriptures, they have that spiritual power in them to reduce your material fire, which is there burning in the heart. Yat ahankaram ashritya na yotsya iti manyashe mityasya vyavashayaste prakritistvam niyokshyati. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed by your nature you will have to be engaged in warfare. Yeah, he was a Kshatriya. He cannot run away from warfare. That's his nature. So that's his occupation. That's why his occupation is based on his nature. Right? If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, they will be falsely directed. So Lord Krishna here, he is outside as a guru, is instructing him. Now, next few verses we are going to discuss more confidential, where Lord Krishna is saying that from inside also he is instructing as super soul. स्वभावजेन कौन्तेया निबद्ध स्वेन कर्मणा कर्तुं नेच्छसि यन्मोहात् करिष्यसि अवशोऽपि तत्. Under illusion, you are not declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same. Lord Krishna is saying that you are thinking that you will be happy becoming a sannyas, but that's not your nature. A sannyasi has to tolerate so many insults. Someone will say you are a loser, just begging and surviving. Immediately you have that nature of satya, you will take out your sword or whatever stick you have, you'll try to beat him, go after him. No, you cannot do that. As a sannyasi, you have to tolerate that insult. But you cannot do that because your nature is Kshatriya. So that's what Lord Krishna is saying. You will act all the same. You're not fight. You're not. You don't want to fight this war. But when you become a sannyasi, again you will do the same thing because that's your nature. You are a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas, remember Dhruv Maharaj? He was just a 5-year-old boy, but he could not accept insult. Narad Muni said that what happened if stepmother said, that you cannot go in your father's life, forget it, go and play, right? You're just a small boy, but and he gave a lot of instructions to him. But Dhruv Maharaj said, no, all your instructions doesn't stick with my heart, sorry. I have made my determination. So that is the Satya determination. They cannot accept insult. And he went to the forest to do Ashtanga yoga and focus on, Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, to see him. Right? So that is what Lord Krishna is saying. That's not your nature, basically. So you are a Kshatriya, you have to fight. Ishvara Sharva Bhutanam Hridedeshe Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sharva Bhutani Yantrarurani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Arjuna is not able to believe that Lord Krishna said to him that even if you become sannyas, you will act all the same. You will act like a Kshatriya only. You will not be able to act like a sannyas. So that is why Lord Krishna is clarifying why. And this is where he's talking about more confidential. The Chit aspect, Satchid Ananda, the Chit aspect. Chit Chetana, right? The consciousness, the Supreme Lord who is in the heart as Paramatma. He is directing the wanderings of all living entities, and living entities just sitting on a machine. He's telling the ant, oh, go there, look, there is a sweet there. The ant goes. And the super soul tells, and in the ant's heart, that go, and there is a sweet. It goes. Right? So the ant's body is just like a machine. There's a living entity within that ant, and there is a super soul in the heart of that ant. And super soul is telling the living entity, go there, and then living entity has the desire to go there, and then super soul helps the living entity go there. Then material energy is also working as per the direction of super soul. Why? Because material energy is also prakriti. Prakriti se su characharam. Mayadhakshena prakriti se characharam. So it is under the supervision. So we feel that we are working. It is actually the super soul who is making our body work. But every step, but it is so tightly controlled, that action of our body and our desire at every step, that we don't feel that something else is driving our body. We feel we are driving our body. Actually, that's the illusion. But anyway, this is the more confidential aspect. That super soul is driving every living entity. Tam eva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. O Scion of Bharat, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. So, earlier Lord Krishna was saying in the confidential, he was telling of the Brahman stage, if you reach, and you are equal to all living entities, then you get pure devotional service, and in that stage you can reach the ultimate. He is then connecting the confidential or the Sat aspect to the ultimate. Now here he is talking about the Chit aspect or more confidential aspect, and again he is connecting it to the ultimate. Okay, that is the eternal abode of Krishna, the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha, right, or Golok Vrindavan, which is the supreme planet in Vaikuntha. So he's saying, surrender unto that super soul utterly, completely. Again, he's talking about the same thing, taking shelter. In Brahman aspect also, there is this concept of taking shelter, right? Here also, there is this concept of taking shelter, surrender. Iti te jnanam akyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrasyaitadaseshena yate chashi tatha kuru. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential, so that Paramatma is the still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. Okay. It says, deliberate on this fully and then do you what you wish to do. Now the problem is this, that the problem we just now discussed. We don't know if something comes in our mind, is it Paramatma or is it myself? Because we may think that I am doing 16 rounds following 4 regulative principles, reading scriptures daily. So whatever is coming in my mind is coming from the super soul, not necessarily. Okay. Depending on which situation, as long as you are doing all those, yes, you are correct. It is coming from super soul. But throughout the day, you are not engaged in those things always. Right? You put yourself into different situations. Right? So, although Lord Krishna is saying deliberate on this fully, then do what you wish to do, he probably understood what what Arjuna is going to ask again. And so, before he's asking, he continues. Sarva guhya tamam bhuya srinu me paramam vacha isto sri me dridhamiti tato vakshyami te hitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Now he is telling the most confidential. What is telling? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namashkuru mame vasyeshi satyam te pratijani me priyosi me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Now Lord Krishna is making it very clear to Arjuna. Right? What he is saying is that if super soul is telling, you may have doubt whether it is super soul or is it my lust. Who is really speaking? But now you won't have any doubt because I am present before you all the time. So think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. Very direct, clear instructions. Right? But why is it most confidential? Because you have to understand, when Lord Krishna was there, not everyone knew that he was Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not everyone knew that everything came from him. That is why it is the most confidential knowledge. Lot of people thought Lord Krishna at that time. Duryodhana used to think that he is just Lord Krishna is a very powerful magician. That's it. That's what his perception, his, thinking about Lord Krishna was. Very few people knew that he was supreme, like Bhishma Dev, the Guru Throne, the devotees in Vrindavan. Devotees in Vrindavan actually did not know that he was supreme, but they were in a different mood. That's it. They were in devotional service all the time. Right. So that is why this knowledge is confidential. And when he says, because you are my very dear friend, you have to understand that he is, if you analyze Lord Krishna, you will see he is a dear friend to all of us. Think, life after life, we are doing nonsense in this material world. And he is, because nothing moves in this world without his permission. And he's helping us do that. Thinking, patiently waiting, when this guy will stop doing nonsense and turn his face to me and talk to me. He's just waiting, life after life, millions of lifetimes. Who can be a better friend than him? Right? Even the material friends, if you don't pay attention to them for few hours, they will leave you. What kind of friend is? He is not even talking to me, he's doing his own thing. But so he's although he's saying my very dear friend to Arjun, he's actually talking to all living entities, not Krishna here. And he's giving very direct instructions. Okay. Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam saranam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami masuja. Why Lord Krishna said this verse after giving that verse? That verse was very clear what is to be done. The reason why he said that is because it's not that you go to Lord Krishna when you want bhakti, you go to Lord Shiva when you want something material, then you go to Goddess Durga when you want something else, then you go to someone else for something else. Stop all that, Lord Krishna is saying. Forget all that. Just come to me. Do all that and remain under my protection only. That is why he makes those actions exclusive. Only those things you do. You don't have to do anything else. Do all those things in my shelter. I will relieve you from all sinful reactions. Because that is how the Bhagavad Gita started. Arjuna asked, oh, I cannot, cover myself with the sins of killing my guru. The worshipable grandfather, Bhishma Dev. I can't do that. Although, because he was thinking he was fighting for his kingdom, but no, he was fighting to protect the religious principles, which Lord Krishna wanted to establish and give the kingdom to a devotee, Yudhishthira Maharaj, so that there is peace everywhere. And people can see the king as an example, not like Duryodhana. He was doing all kinds of, he's trying to burn his cousins, he's trying to kidnap their wife, all kinds of aggressive acts. What kind of example Duryodhana will set to his citizens? Right? So Lord Krishna wanted Yudhishthira to become Maharaj. He is an ideal king, epitome of dharma. So people can see him, look at him like an example. Right? So that is what Lord Krishna wanted Arjuna to do. And they said, if you engage in that, and I will relieve you of all your sins. So this is the most confidential. So we will complete our topic today. So more confidential is Sat or the Brahman. The more confidential is Paramatma, right, or Chit. And most confidential is the Ananda Vigraha, which is Lord Krishna himself, right, to surrender unto him. Right. So that is the three different aspects Lord Krishna is saying. In all the stages, in Brahman aspect also you surrender. In Paramatma aspect also you surrender. And of course, in Ananda, you surrender. Everywhere that surrender or the saran or protection, the shelter aspect is there. Okay, I have already crossed 5 minutes, so I'm going to close the session and just quickly check if there are any questions or comments. Okay, so someone is asking, how does one be an observer to others' words and actions without getting caught in their actions? Okay, this is a tricky question. I will put it this way. If you see that someone is doing something wrong, don't be a silent observer or saying something wrong or doing something wrong. My suggestion is don't be a silent observer. At least if he is in a good state of mind, at least try to tell him nicely, politely, not that he's wrong, but what right he can do. Because if you use the word the word of negation, then people don't like it. But you can say something positive instead, what they can do. But if that person is not in good state of mind, like violent or very aggressive, if that's what your question is, then the best thing is, as Lord Krishna said in the second chapter itself, you tolerate. You by developing the power of tolerating and keeping silent, you develop the power of detachment. Whether you are able to tolerate or not is a symptom of whether you have developed detachment or not. And more you tolerate, more you will develop detachment. Detachment is not a miracle that will happen to you. It is something you have to practice. And you practice by practicing tolerating. Tolerating unfavorable words, unfavorable actions. One has to develop that. And how do you develop that toleration? When you see that everyone is actually being guided by super soul. Everyone is guided by super soul. Don't think that. So there's a classic example that is given in Bhagavatam in one of the purports, that super soul is telling the landlord that put bolts in all your doors because there is theft going on in your area. But he's telling also the thief that this particular house has got wealth, go there. It's the same super soul. So a super soul, if someone is interested in protecting himself, super soul will give him instruction. But if someone wants to go to hell by doing theft, then super soul will help that person also, although hesitatingly. Why I'm telling you this is because when you are in that frame of mind that everyone is acting because the super soul is driving them, of course, that does not mean that simply because super soul is driving them, they are all doing good things. No. Super soul is driving them because that is their mode. Like if super soul does not drive a tiger to kill and eat, a tiger will not survive because that's his mode. Right? So that is how you develop the power to tolerate. I hope I have answered your question. And that is also will help you to develop detachment. there, Mumbai Thane, okay. There may be Bhagavad Gita discourses happening there, but I think if you can give the contact to me, but this is not the right place to give the contact because there can be privacy thing. So go to, okay, I will give you my email. You can send me, okay, you can send me your contact and I can send you if in Mumbai Thane, if there are any discourses. So this is my contact, and write down, and I will find out from the devotees who are living there and let you know if there are any discourses going on. Okay, devotees, now we'll have to close the session because we have already gone 11 minutes past. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev ki jai.